Hey guys, welcome back to Isyour6covered. Today we're doing another Into the Fire. Basically, I have a little section there for firefighters to go to, EMS, whatever the case is. I know the channel is kind of a guns and gear and prepping channel, but together I keep that a little bit separate. But you guys, thanks for showing up. I appreciate it. Quite a few of you guys out there already. Let's see. So responding to a crime scene and the things to be aware of. Right, the what to's simple. We're not going to get into every detail, but a lot of people don't have any idea that respond. Basically, you got to think of this: you're on an EMS, maybe you're an ambulance or an ALS provider on an engine, a truck company, whatever the case is, a squad, and you have been the scene has been cleared by PD, SO, whoever's in your jurisdiction. You respond to the call, and we're going to talk a little bit about the crime scene being where there's a fatality. Maybe the EMS just needs to go in and confirm that, basically put the leads on them, make sure there's no heart rate, and call the patient. Or there may be times, and we'll kind of get into it, it'll go back and forth, but we may arrive to a crime scene. There's still tons of stuff around on the ground, blood and all that stuff, but we're going to get into it. I'm going to read a little bit from some notes here, and it won't be a very long video. I'm hoping to keep it around 30 minutes or so, unless you guys have some good questions out there, whatever the case is. But before we start, we'll definitely say hi to all you guys. And Bad Billy 429, you're the first one to show up. Appreciate that. Evan Fields is back. Twisted Metals of Texas, Sandy Passion. Daniel God is my judge. Tool Monkey, Keith Gregory for now. So again, appreciate you guys showing up. So let's start off here. So in responding to EMS calls that are also crime scenes, here's some information that may help you to understand why some of your actions can be very destructive to a crime scene. And to give you an example, I work in the field of arson investigations. That's not my primary role, but that's one of the things I do for the department. And WTF SoCal just texted me, so thanks for screwing that up. But we respond to vegetation fires, structure fires, and we get our guys to go in there, and they got hose lines and they're basically dragging evidence and pushing material with their hoses and basically screwing up the crime scene for the investigation. So on the other end of things, definitely want to talk about us as a EMS, whether you're EMS, fire, or whatever the case is, and you're responding to this type of call. So we'll get into it. It's basically a crime scene. Let's just kind of come up with, husband and wife. They had a dispute. We'll just say that the husband decided to murder the wife, or whatever the case is. Some type of but some of the things. So basically, we're going to need to understand why some of our actions can be very destructive to the crime scene, and hopefully this will make good decisions for you guys when you find yourself at the crime scene. So first overall thing, we always say it, safety is our first priority of ourselves and our crew, and as soon as the call goes out, right? Responding to an incident is very unsafe. We have our lights and sirens on. We're not supposed to pretend like we own the road. We're supposed to still be in the legal parameters. We're just asking for permission for them to move the heck out of the way so that we can continue on. We're not really going any faster than the posted speed limits. We're still supposed to stop at the stop signs, and I see that happens and doesn't happen quite a bit. And your first responsibility is to get you and your crew to the scene. You're no good if you can't help anybody. But that's a whole nother Into the Fire video, basically. All right, so never approach the scene until it has been secured by PD. So any type of crime scene, 911 dispatcher gets it, and there's a disturbance in this neighborhood. I heard gunshots and so on and so forth. Well, instantly they're gonna start the police department, and then they're gonna start EMS. They're gonna tell us to stage. Staging basically means we get close to the incident, but not close enough where we're in the incident, and then we'll wait for PD to make the scene clear. And then our dispatch will say, okay, the scene's clear, go ahead and continue in. So then we'll go in and do what we need to do. So that's that. So evidence will be everywhere, depending on how large scale this is. Maybe it was in a house and they chase each other all around the house and there's blood everywhere and so on and so forth, or body parts or whatever the case is. And we need to make sure that we don't disturb any of that. And this is some of the ways that we'll talk about it. So be very observant to all the items in and around you. So basically, you know, we come in with our medical bags. We come in with our big old fire boots. We trample on stuff. We kick stuff that we shouldn't. And that does nothing but screw the scene up, basically. Maybe we walk through a pool of stepped blood, right? That was tracks that the officers needed, you know, to make, you know, to whatever the case is. So we have an ability to really screw stuff up once on scene. Now, if we're going to an incident where the patient has been called or deceased, and PD just basically needs to confirm it, so they need some type of ALS, advanced life support, guy goes in or lady goes in, connects the heart, you know, basically the pads to the patient or the victim, and just to confirm that it's a flat line and nothing's good, you know, it's an obvious fatality. The least amount of people that go into that scene, the better. You basically need 1 or 2 people to do it, to do the job. You don't need a whole crew, engine crew, and a whole ambulance crew to go in there to do that. So the least amount of people as possible. That's less footprints. That's less possibilities of kicking stuff, knocking stuff over, screwing up the crime scene, moving objects that shouldn't be moved. And we'll get into that a little bit more. But so be very observant of what you're walking on, where you're walking, what you're hopefully not tripping over. The goal of performing EMS at a crime scene is to provide high quality patient care while preserving evidence. So now we're getting into the thing where there's a viable patient, right? So we're in a crime scene. We don't want to mess up stuff in the crime scene, but our first priority is to take that patient and give them the care that they need in order to facilitate whatever it is. You know, if they're bleeding, we stop the bleeding and get them loaded and get in the ambulance and off they go to the hospital. So, but we need to do that in a manner where we're preserving the evidence. So basically the goal to perform EMS at a crime scene is to provide high quality patient care while preserving evidence. The other thing that's on here is never jeopardize patient care for the sake of evidence. However, do not perform patient care with disregard of for the criminal investigation. So don't just be running around, you know, oh, the patient's this, and just kind of go in there like a bull in a china shop and screw everything up. But your main goal is to never to jeopardize the patient care as well. Be aware of anything on or around the patient that may be considered evidence. And you, as an EMS professional, or maybe you're just getting into it or whatever the case is, you're not going to know what is or isn't considered evidence, right? So a good way to say it is be aware of anything on or around the patient and leave it at that may be considered evidence. Let's just consider everything evidence to the most part. And then whenever in doubt, save or treat an object as evidence, right? And a lot of people, they want to help, right? A lot of the first responders, right? We're always people that want to help, and you don't grab an object or a bullet and go, here you go, police officer, I found this on the ground. You know, that's not helping them, right? Anytime you move an object, it's really going to mess up. It's going to mess up their investigation, because like an arson, you know, depending on how you point this and the way the heat comes to it, will tell you stuff that you need to know, where the fire came, how it grew. So in the crime scene investigation stuff, it's kind of the same thing, but I don't know exactly what they're looking for. But you don't want to touch a piece of evidence and thinking you're helping someone by going, here you go. So don't do that. Now you can tell someone, hey, I found a bullet over there, and you know, that maybe you weren't aware of, and they're all, okay, thank you, you know, whatever the case is. So there's that. Let's see. Record only the facts at the scene of a crime and record them accurately. Don't ever think you know, just because you may have watched, every episode of Cops or whatever the case is. Don't think, don't give your ideas of stuff. Just give facts. You know, it was laying right here on the chair, or the person had a blue shirt on, or be very factual, not your in your reporting. Let the officers do their job when it comes to that stuff. And be very detailed on your report as well. You are probably going to be subpoenaed and brought to court, especially if you were the one that assisted with the patient that went into the crime scene, captured the patient and escorted them via gurney or backboard or whatever to the ambulance to go to the hospital. You're probably going to be subpoenaed. So that whatever you wrote in there, including spelling and grammar and all that, is going to be on a big board in front of the jury and all the people watching, and you don't want to be the asshat that wrote something wrong, spelled something incorrectly, put your thoughts and ideas into it, but leave it factual. So there's that. Let's see here. All right, so police crime scene concerns. So basically concerns that the police officers or sheriffs or whoever have is, once evidence is moved, it cannot be put back where it originally laid. Placement tells a story. And I kind of went into that with the, my toothpaste thing here. It tells a story how it laid. A lot of stuff is involved in what they can do with that. Now you see on TV like the CSI and all that kind of stuff. I don't think any department like that has the money availability to do that unless it's a very high profile case. But like for your normal stuff, they're not going to be doing all that crazy shit you see on TV. I just don't think there's a department out there that has the financial backing to do that to every incident. But it says once the evidence is moved, cannot be put back in its original, where it was originally laid, and placement tells the story. And that's a perfect sentence there. There's not much more you can say on that. EMS issues. Basically, their issues that they have with the EMS is we walk carelessly through the scene, kicking evidence, picking up evidence, and handing evidence to officers. So again, those are the things that you don't want to do. And then we'll talk a little bit about moving inside of a crime scene. So step carefully. Your footprints may damage prints or confuse the scene. And all prints, hand and feet, have to be accounted for. They may take pictures of your boots and hands. There's a lot of times we'll leave an incident, and it doesn't have to be some crazy incident, but they usually take your number and your name and your rank. So they'll either want to know who the whole crew is on the thing, or they'll want to know who the company officer is, if they need to contact you, what station you're at, station number, and sometimes your cell phone number. I've never had it happen, but they on here, they may take pictures of your boots. A lot of us wear the same type of boot, so it kind of helps out a little bit. But there's a few models in there, a few styles that we usually wear. So they take pictures of your boots and that kind of stuff, just to basically erase you from being someone to look into. Things to avoid: wiping the patient without PD knowledge, cleaning wounds. If you are sent in to pronounce the patient, do this with least amount of people, and limit crew size. So yeah, we talked about that a little bit. So maybe the person that was deceased for some reason, or maybe the person that's deceased is over there, but it was two patients, or it was two people, and they had a gun battle, right? And for some reason the guy wants to start an IV The other guy's just injured. He has a gunshot wound to wherever, his leg or whatever the case is, and he starts wiping, around the hand where he's going to put in an IV. There may be a lot of gunpowder residue that they don't want you to mess with, because that's part of their case, their criminal investigation. So if you do need to get an IV set up, maybe you want to do it on the guy's non-dominant hand. You could ask him. That may help, and then definitely notify law enforcement that you're doing stuff to a possible murder suspect. Let's see. Oh, big one here. So touching one victim after another, but not changing your gloves out. So you can do a lot of damage. You can do a lot of damage basically on the crime scene stuff. Every time we take a piece of evidence, maybe we found a matchbox down there that's all burned up. After I collect that piece, I need to change my gloves to get to the next piece of evidence because I don't want cross-contamination, just to confirm it. So we'll take pictures of that. I take pictures of new gloves, and then I move on to the next one. So same thing here. You don't want to go help this patient. Say you got multiple patients, but it's a crime scene. Think, grab some extra gloves, throw them in your pocket kind of deal, because you're going to want to swap those gloves out. Because you could change the jury, or you could sentence someone to prison because he has some sort of evidence from that guy or gal over there on him now, because you have touched him all over. You're doing a head-to-toe body survey, whatever the case is. We're kind of splitting cells now, but we're basically, that's, you want to change your gloves prior to the next victim. Trace evidence. Do not cover body with sheets, and wool blankets are even worse. So we carry these yellow sheets. You probably see them on, you may pass across a highway where there was a fatality and there was a sheet spread over a patient. With stuff like this where they're still getting information, that's a little different. Like, we know that guy or gal probably passed away due to the car rolled over 12 times. So that's not so much a criminal investigation per se, right? Because we don't know if they're cut off or whatever. But on this end of it, where there's, maybe gunpowder or, stuff on the floor, that's definitely all important crime scene stuff. We don't want to be doing too much. So before we do anything, we might want to ask, right? If the patient's been called, they're definitely going to want to take pictures of all that stuff, take samples, take shirt stuff. And I think we're going to get into that a little bit here, of how we don't want to screw up stuff. So say the person was stabbed or shot or whatever the case is, we don't want to utilize those areas. I'll just wait till we get to it. I think it's coming up quick. Oh yeah, it's the next one. If you must remove clothing, go around worn or bloodied spots. Don't cut through them. So basically, a bloody spot, a worn spot, a hole, a gunshot wound, whatever the case is, don't, we're exposing the chest to get to them so we can plug all the leaks, right? Well, don't cut through those marks. Don't utilize those tears, because that's part of the investigation. That maybe that person was fighting the person off, and all that important information is on that shirt. As soon as we cut our scissors or our shears and we go right through the bullet hole, or we go right through the big tear and all that other stuff, they basically just lost that piece of evidence, because it's not going to be able to be used for the most part. Yeah, it says, so if you must remove clothing, go around worn or bloodied spots. Don't cut through holes. They will not be used for reconstruction if they are destroyed. So leave at scene. That's stuff too. All that stuff you take off them, maybe you had to take your shirt off or whatever the case is, leave that on scene and let them bag that up as evidence. You don't want to bring that stuff to the hospital. Don't need it anyways. Best choice is if you can take clothing off whole without tearing or ripping. So just to confirm that. Responding to a crime scene and things to be aware of. So before leaving, tell PD if you saw anything, moved anything, stepped on anything, or taking anything to the hospital. So all that information needs to be relayed to the local law enforcement. leave all your trash. Yes, leave all your trash where it lays. So you're gonna have like stripped out IV bags and you know, catheter covers and all kinds of crap and 4x4 wound packaging stuff, and that's gonna be all over the floor. Don't try picking it up. Just leave it where it lays. They're gonna need that information. Take the pictures before they can remove it all out, anyways. And then do not clean up. If she has a splinter, can you take her clothes off? The redneck prepper. Thanks, buddy, for showing up. And 4 more things. Additional needs from EMS for police. So the boots photographed, as stated earlier, a possible DNA swab. And this, we're talking more about very high-end, kind of like O.J. Simpson thing. You know, where it's like big name, something or other. The elimination of fingerprints. So they're going to want that stuff in your equipment, very rare. So things that we try not to do is, if we get there too early, we can park inside of the crime scene. Once the guy, you know, there's already officers in there, but then there's the next officers that arrive on scene and they want to put their tape around, you know, the crime scene, right? Well, if our vehicle is too close and we are stuck inside the middle of that crime scene, we may be sitting there for hours until they can clear us, because now we are part of the, you know, the crime scene. So don't park too close, because you might get stuck there and your unit may be out of service for 3, 4, 8, 10, 12 hours. So that's very possible. Your medical bags and all that stuff, they, on a very rare occasion, they could take your equipment. I don't know why they would, but they can. So I'm going to go out here and say hi again to all you guys. But that's basically it. It's hopefully a short, I don't know how long I've been talking, but I'm going to go through and give you guys a shout out real quick, and then we'll be out of here. So I appreciate it. So we got Bad Billy 429, Evan Fields, Twisted Metal of Texas, Sandy's Passion, Daniel God is My Judge, Tool Monkey, Keith Gregory, Vborg 001, and Evans Field, and the Redneck Prepper. Thanks again, guys. I appreciate it. I'm going to say thanks here in the comment section. And you guys did a great job of giving me thumbs up, so I appreciate that as well. And I'm going to type in, thanks everyone for showing up. So I'm going to get going here. Unless you guys have any quick questions, make sure you hit the thumbs up like the Redneck Prepper said. Do appreciate that. Make sure you get over and check out my series called Into the Fire if you're interested in, or someone in your family is interested in becoming a firefighter. There's a lot of great information in there, and it's in one of my playlists called Into the Fire. So you guys have an awesome night. I will see you soon, and I appreciate you guys showing up. So thanks again. Bye, everyone.